Look, let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever walked into a room and just immediately noticed that guy? You know exactly the one I'm talking about. He isn't necessarily the tallest, or the most handsome, or the richest guy in the room, but somehow everyone's attention just kind of drifts toward him. Women notice him, men respect him, and the crazy part, he doesn't even seem to be trying hard. He just carries himself differently. Now, most guys look at a dude like that and think, well, he was just born with it, or he must have a massive bank account. But as we unpack the mechanics behind this today, we're going to see that that is a complete myth. His presence has literally nothing to do with genetics, and it absolutely has nothing to do with money.
So if it's not magic, and it's not a trust fund, what exactly makes that guy different? What is he doing that most men just aren't? Well, the answer is remarkably grounded. It's simply a set of specific, highly learnable behaviors. The issue is, most men were just never taught these behaviors because, frankly, nobody ever sat them down and explained this stuff clearly. So hey, it's not your fault if you don't know the playbook, but that changes today. In this explainer, think of me as your mentor. We are going to strip away all that terrible cliché advice you've heard over the years and uncover the actual mechanics of magnetic presence.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start by redefining the secret to real confidence, and then we'll break down Pillar 1, quiet dominance, Pillar 2, being unyielding, Pillar 3, projecting importance, and Pillar 4, killing self-consciousness, before finally tying it all together into one integrated system.
All right, kicking things off with Pillar 1, quiet dominance.
Before we really get into the weeds here, we've got to completely dismantle how we think about this word. Because honestly, when most guys hear dominance, they picture the absolute wrong thing, and it completely holds them back. And by the way, these pillars, they apply equally to your career, your dating life, your friendships, basically every single arena where you want to show up as your best self. So the actual reality of dominance is simply treating yourself, your time, and your goals as genuinely important without having to constantly announce it to the room. That's the core of it. Most guys picture this overly aggressive dude, right? Someone who talks over people, puffing out his chest to prove a point. But that's not dominance. That's literally just insecurity wearing a costume. Real dominance is far quieter, and frankly, it's way more powerful. Here's a simple way to look at it. A dominant man acts like his time matters. A non-dominant man acts like everyone else's time matters way more than his own. Think about the guy who instantly cancels his own plans the second someone else needs something. Not because he genuinely wants to help out, but because he's absolutely terrified of their disapproval. He is treating his own time like it's worthless. The dominant man just doesn't do that. He simply acts like his own goals are a real priority.
So fake dominance relies on aggression, right? Physically asserting yourself, talking over people. But real dominance, it's just quietly valuing your own time and protecting your own interests. Now, here is a super critical insight you've got to grasp. Dominance is always highly contextual. Think about it practically for a second. In your office, your boss is more dominant than you. If you happen to run the company, you're more dominant than your employees. So it doesn't make sense to ask an abstract question like, am I a dominant person? The actual question is, in this specific situation right now, am I acting like someone whose opinions and time matter? Because let me tell you, the people who actually get ahead in life actively protect their own interests. And why is that? Because they understand the brutal reality that literally no one else is going to do it for them. Nobody is going to magically advocate for your raise or guard your weekends if you're just handing your time out to whoever asks. It's not cynical, it's just a reality of how the world works.
Moving right along to Pillar 2, being unyielding.
This is where your internal standard really meets the outside world. Being unyielding means you can say no, you stand by your beliefs, and you don't just fold the second you feel pressure or fear someone's disapproval. Let me paint a picture that I bet almost every guy watching this will recognize instantly. You're seeing a girl you really like, right? Things are going great. And then, out of nowhere, she casually says something totally dismissive about a hobby you really care about, or maybe a core opinion you hold. Maybe she even rolls her eyes. What does the average, yielding guy do in that moment? He instantly backs down. He softens up. He goes, oh yeah, I mean, you're probably right. He does it because he doesn't want her to think less of him, but here is the brutal irony. She thinks less of him anyway. Not because he changed his opinion, but because he just showed her he'll abandon his own identity just to keep her comfortable. Man, that makes him look incredibly weak. Now contrast that with the guy who hears the exact same comment, smiles, and just says, actually, I completely disagree, and here's why. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't get mad. He just calmly stands his ground. He just became 10 times more likable and interesting because he proved he actually has a self-worth arguing from.
And that leads us to the ultimate magnet, lacking the fear of losing someone. Men who are genuinely great with people, and especially with women, do not change themselves for a woman. They don't even entertain the thought, and it's entirely because they lack the fear of losing her over it. That lack of fear is everything, man. Because when you finally stop fearing the loss of someone's approval, this massive shift happens in your behavior. You stop performing. You stop frantically trying to manage the reactions. You stop editing your words in real time right before they leave your mouth. You just exist as you are. And that creates this undeniable, grounded authenticity that literally no pickup technique or corporate networking strategy could ever replicate.
Now look, being unyielding doesn't mean you're getting into dramatic, movie-style confrontations every day. Not at all. It shows up in these really small, everyday actions. When someone talks over you in a meeting, you just finish your point instead of trailing off. When a buddy keeps canceling on you at the last minute, you stop rearranging your whole schedule to accommodate his flakiness. When someone changes plans on you without asking, you address it directly instead of just silently going along with it. When somebody makes a joke at your expense, you don't just nervously laugh along. You respond clearly. Do any of these require you to act like a jerk or get aggressive? Absolutely not. They just require the quiet, daily defense of your personal standards. It is literally just self-respect in action.
Okay, let's talk about Pillar 3, projecting importance.
Now this section gets into some kind of counterintuitive territory, but if you grasp this, it will completely change how you carry yourself. You have to act the part first. The feeling follows the behavior. Here's a surprising truth that catches a lot of guys totally off guard. It actually doesn't matter if you feel worthless or unimportant on the inside, just as long as you don't act like it. Now, look, obviously in a perfect world, yes, you want to feel great internally, but everyone, even highly successful people, has days of just deep crushing insecurity. The trap is thinking you need to feel confident before you can act confident. So what happens? You wait. You wait until you're in better shape, or you get that promotion, or your anxiety magically fades. And the waiting literally never ends. Behavior is the primary signal people read. They gauge your confidence entirely by how you handle a waiter bringing the wrong order, or how you just sit comfortably in a dead, awkward silence instead of nervously babbling to fill it. You act like you expect to be welcomed, and I promise you, the internal feeling of belonging will eventually catch up.
There's this massive pitfall when it comes to projecting importance, and I really want you to think about how many guys do this. Their entire confidence is stored in their expensive outfit or their fresh sneakers, their nice car, maybe a gold chain. In the absolute moment they forget that chain at home, their energy just tanks. They get in their head. They feel embarrassed. Think about how wild that actually is. You are emotionally hostage to a piece of metal. If your confidence requires a specific car or a designer logo on your chest just to feel valid, it was never really yours to begin with. True confidence has to be internally portable. You need to be able to walk into a room totally stripped of your phone, your watch, and your nice clothes and still move like you absolutely belong there.
Which brings us to our final and honestly probably the most critical section, Pillar 4, killing self-consciousness.
I need you to really listen close here, because this specific habit quietly destroys more potential in men than all the other issues we've talked about combined. It all comes down to a stark contrast in your internal monologue. Picture this. You're at a social event, you see someone you want to talk to, and instantly your brain goes into overdrive. What am I going to say? Does my hair look okay? What if she rejects me? That right there, that is self-consciousness. It's splitting your attention between the present moment and this imaginary audience that's judging your every move. But here's the brutal truth, man. There is no audience. Nobody is watching you as closely as you think they are. They are all completely trapped in their own insecurities. So you have to replace that habit. Instead of asking the outward-seeking question, what will they think of me, you must point your attention inward. Ask yourself, what do I think of myself right now? Hold yourself to your own standard. When you stop needing the room to validate you, you become genuinely magnetic, because for the first time, you are fully present.
And that seamlessly leads us to the insane power of tolerating uncertainty. You see, most of our self-consciousness comes from this desperate need to control the outcome. We need to know if the room thinks we're cool. We need to know for sure if the joke is going to land. But the second you need that certainty, you're trapped. You start visibly calibrating every single word and gesture. And people can feel that calibration, right? It makes you look nervous and calculated. The guy with real presence is the one who can just sit in uncertainty with complete ease. He doesn't need to pump himself up with a bunch of false bravado or toxic positivity. He just approaches a situation not knowing exactly how it'll go, and he is entirely fine with that. He drops that defense mechanism pessimism that guys use to protect their egos from rejection and simply carries himself with a grounded, easy comfort.
All right, let's wrap this up with the integrated system.
Let's zoom out for a second and look at the whole shebang, because I really want you to see how this all connects. These aren't just random, isolated behaviors. It's one connected, living system. Step 1. Dominance. That's your foundation. When you start treating yourself as important, it naturally leads you right into step 2, being unyielding. You just naturally start holding your ground in your daily practice. That internal respect then dictates step 3, projecting importance, which is how you properly show up externally. And finally, step 4, having no self-consciousness, that clears the path. It removes all the mental garbage. Because think about it, you could have dominance and an unyielding character, but if you're trapped in your own head over-analyzing every little thing, none of those great traits are ever going to reach the surface. They all feed into each other to create the kind of man people remember long after he leaves the room.
So, what is your big takeaway from this explainer today? It's simple. Notice it. Then choose differently. Because none of this is about becoming some fake, entirely different person. It's just about stripping away the layers of fear and old conditioning that are blocking the man you already have the capacity to be. So I want to challenge you right now. Start with just one pillar today. Pay attention to when you shrink yourself down just to please someone else. Notice when you attach your entire mood to a car or a watch. Catch yourself running that same old fearful script in your head. Just notice it happening, and in that exact moment, choose differently. Stand your ground. Tolerate the uncertainty. Act the part. I'm telling you, the changes will compound faster than you can possibly imagine. So, which pillar are you going to take ownership of today?